Dear colleagues, we thank the Commissioner for being with us for an hour and delivering this overview of the full cycle, the Commission mandate about equality, and also guiding us for what is coming, because indeed it's a very difficult way forward. Now for the next hour, I would like to stress, maybe it was not mentioned in the introduction, we continue under Chatham House rules. So this is not an event for great publicity at the outset. At the same time, we are between ourselves and we can be very, very honest about the difficulties, but also the potential conflicts awaiting. Now, I have the great pleasure to introduce the next session, which I will also moderate, about Social Europe. I can say under the Chatham House rules, with the dames of Social Europe. First of all, Esther Lynch, who is the General Secretary of ETUC, the European Trade Union Confederation, and Gabriele Bischoff, more precisely, who is Vice President of the S&D Group, and as you know, a member from Germany. And between the two of you, I think we cover a wide range of Social Europe, and I think we will prove that Social Europe is not a marginal portfolio issue for the European Union and the European Commission precisely, which we discuss with particular attention today, but a more comprehensive one. Of course, it covers everything which we consider part of employment, the labor market, jobs, but also the welfare state in the spirit of the 2017 European Pillar of Social Rights. But if you look at the preoccupations of this agenda, it has been a lot about the so-called just transition, how we cope with the question of climate, and maintain at the same time the high social standards of the European Union, or how we tackle technological change. Do we consider artificial intelligence an opportunity or a threat to the social standards? Sometimes it is a difficult dilemma. And just to add another point to this broad agenda, the territorial dimension, the inequalities in terms of regions. Gabi knows a lot about Brandenburg, for example, and the territorial uneven development, which is also generating different types of labor migration, puts pressure on welfare systems, is also part of this. But before going to this wide agenda, I think Esther and Gabi, we need to tackle the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room, which was also mentioned in the previous discussion, the proposed Commission structure, and what title we found, what title we don't find. If we go back to history, my predecessor in office, Vladimir Špidla, was the last one responsible for equal opportunity. I was the last one responsible for inclusion, if you look at the titles. Marianne Thyssen was the last one responsible for skills and mobility. And the question is whether Nikolai Schmidt is going to be the last one responsible for social rights. So what do you think about the question of the portfolio, not only the title, but also what it can cover in the next mandate? Esther, would you like to start?
Oh, well, and I'm actually sorry that Commissioner Dalli has gone, because I wanted to thank her as a working woman for everything that she's done in the directives, but also as the General Secretary of the ETUC as well. And she was right. I mean, we had to struggle for ages to get the Pay Transparency Directive, and then we had to fight for every single thing that we got in it. And I think Jude is right, that fight is far from won. There's another battle to undermine it all, and that's why the titles are so important, because of what they signal. We want to change the title not because we want a better title, but because we want to counteract the idea that's being created that jobs are unimportant or that rights are unacceptable. Because by removing jobs and social rights, or by pushing equality to the corner, so that the impression can be created that this Commission only cares about the equality of women at the top, and everybody else, the carers, the cleaners, everybody whose work is undervalued, that isn't something of significance. So I think that's why it's so important, the work that we're all doing at the moment, collectively, both the trade union movement, the progressives, to make sure to change the title, but also to make sure that we get commitments for key deliverables. And by key deliverables, we mean a just transition directive to give guarantees for involvement, a real say, but also for genuine rights to training and a real prospect. I don't know about you, but I've heard time and time again politicians say we'll leave no one behind. And then I go and meet with workers, and I know many of the trade unions in the room, you meet with workers and say, yeah, but I'm being left behind. So we really need to make it very concrete, and I think the discussion on the Just Transition Directive gives us an opportunity to identify just how real that promise is to working people. But then we have other challenges, like we know there's a lot of stress and burnout at work, and know a lot of you have heard me talk about what we're calling ethical stress. So an example of that is workers, I'm thinking particularly of people working in care, people working as teachers, they go to work, they have a student who's struggling, but because of the size of the class, because of the pressures of the daily job, they're unable to give that student the help and encouragement the student needs. And then they go home with that stress. And then they get up to morning and the following morning and do the same stressful job, and they go home with the same stress. So we need to look at and be able to have the tools to put on the table the organization of work, to make sure that the actual way in which workers are asked to deliver the job, whether it's the public or the private sector, that they're able to do that in a way that's not damaging to them because of the conditions under which the mental load that they're asked to do. I know the European Foundation of Living and Working Conditions has done a lot of work about the causes of, we'll say, stress at work. Then finally, I want to mention two other key directives. One, to look at public procurement rules to make sure that public procurement rules are not driving a race to the bottom on paying conditions. It shouldn't be the case that if you're a company, you lose a contract because you have a collective agreement and good terms and conditions. Because you invest in the workforce, you shouldn't be put at a disadvantage. So we need new rules to address that problem. But also we need to ensure these long subcontracting chains where workers don't even know at the end of the day who their employer is. And all of this can also be part of an industrial policy with the necessary investments in companies with strings attached so that we make sure that workers also succeed. So the trade union movement has a plan. I know the progressives are interested in working with us on that plan. And that's why all of the discussion about the title is about what's behind what's behind the meaning of removing jobs and social rights, and can we get it back?
Gabi, how would you comment on the same question?
I would also like to thank Helena Dalli, especially for her work. I hope it will be transported, and for the message she did give to us for the next 5 years. It is that if you fight, you can win. If you don't fight, you will lose a lot. And especially if you fight, you need good alliances to be successful. And she was a professional in this. And I think this should guide us also for the next 5 years. From my point of view, I would start with a broader assessment of the situation. We have a new parliament, and it's a different parliament than before. And we will not continue the way we were working in the parliament in the next 5 years. We have to develop totally new strategies. Also, in terms of alliances, we can already see in the plenary that we face big problems. And when we look at the Commission and you look at the mission letters, you can also see already the problems coming up. First, there are no clear responsibilities. And Helena Dalli's are not there anymore. there is no commissioner for equality. Equality, I think, is in the package of crisis management. This already gives you an indication what we have to fight for in the next years. And the split up of responsibilities on 4, 5, 6, even sometimes 8 commissioners on one topic also indicates that questions of responsibility, of resources, of fights between these commissioners then about policies will be a factor. On the other hand, we already have seen, and I look in some phases, have seen already many hearings of commissioners, many rounds, and we also say here, like with laws, you never go out of the door like the proposals came in. So we have to address, on some hand, deficiencies in there. And this will be the first battle that will have a huge impact on the next 5 years. This is why Esther is right. It's not about titles. It's about the concept behind the titles and the content that is behind it. Mm-hmm. And this is why it is so important here that we don't lose the whole picture here for this first battle. So we have to look at the split up of competences and address it. We also have to change, I mean, if I look at the competences of PSP, people, skills, and preparedness, I can see it sounds more like a disease than really a title for a commissioner. And this is, we really miss very important initiatives that Esther was raising, and we miss initiatives that Frau von der Leyen, in her speech before she was elected, highlighted. There is a discrepancy between this, and we need to address it. But that's part of the business. That's why we are elected members of parliament. If we wouldn't do so, we wouldn't need a European Parliament here. So this is what we have to do. I share most of the priorities that you mentioned for the next 5 years. And I think if we look at the political landscape in Europe, we can see if Europe is not capable to give sufficient answers for the transitions, for the question of migration, etc., if we will have more and more insecurity, like we can already see, like in my country at the moment, with key sectors in crisis and insufficient answers to this, this will be otherwise a program to even boost the right-wing extremist forces in Europe. So we have a lot of work ahead, but on the other side, if I look around, I'm quite optimistic that we can still change some things, but what we cannot change is the political majorities we have in the parliament, even worse in the council. And we will have, for the first time, only a few commissioners. We have them in important dossiers and with important responsibilities. That's very important, and for me, I'm also very happy that with Roxana, it's in our political family and stays in our political family to have a commissioner for jobs and social rights, and I'm sure that we can boost up this profile so that she can also deliver in the next years.
Thank you very much.